Jeremy Corbyn, I just want to start by reading something out to you, words that you may be familiar with. The Labour Party has been my life, but I've had to be honest, and the truth is that I've become ashamed of the Labour Party under Jeremy Corbyn. He's spent his entire career supporting extremists, in some cases including terrorists and anti-Semites. These are the words of Ian Austin, who until today was a Labour MP. How does that make you feel?
I'm very sorry that Ian's resigned from the Labour Party, and I'm very sorry he uses language like that. He and I have known each other a very long time. We've both been in Parliament together. I'm not saying we've always agreed on Iraq war or many other issues. We didn't. But I don't think it's helpful to use language like that. I've spent my life on human rights, on peace, and trying to bring people together, and that is how I tried to lead the Labour.
Does it worry you a little bit that perhaps members of the public might hear statements like that, and statements that he's also made saying that I always tell the truth, I could never ask local people to make Jeremy Corbyn Prime Minister because he and John McDonnell, your Shadow Chancellor, cannot be trusted? Does it worry you at all that the public might think, this man has known Jeremy Corbyn for a long time, maybe I should listen to him?
Well, lots of other people have known me for even longer and would have a very different view than Ian Austin. Ian Austin was elected as a Labour MP in June 2017 on exactly the same manifesto as I was elected. For the many, not the few. That manifesto promised to do everything we could to end austerity, to redistribute power and wealth in our society, to end the grotesque inequalities that are in Britain. That is the core value of the Labour Party. And I'm sure Ian, underneath it, actually shares that core value.
Chris Williamson, close ally of yours, says that he thinks that Ian Austin, talk about him being elected under the Labour manifesto, which you stood on as well, says that he was elected under that election under false pretences. Do you think he's got a point?
Let's move on from this. Ian was elected, I was elected, Chris was elected, all on the same manifesto. Ian has decided, sadly, to leave the Labour Party. I'm sorry.
Because it's not just Mr Austin, though, is it, Mr Corbyn? Because, I mean, if we just look through some of the statements just this week from many of your former parliamentary colleagues, Luciana Burgess saying that she's become embarrassed and ashamed to remain in the Labour Party. Gavin Shuker, the Labour Party is riddled with anti-Semitism. Jeremy Corbyn presents a threat to our national security. Joan Coffey, any criticism of the leadership is responded to with abuse and accusations of treachery. Does this not make you angry?
I'm sorry, I think the last part is complete nonsense. People criticise me as they criticise everybody else. That is public life, that is politics. I understand that, I accept that criticism, I take that criticism, that's what we're about. But fundamentally, why are we in public life? Are we elected there for ourselves, or are we elected there because we're trying to change the way our society is so that we do reduce the levels of inequality and poverty in Britain?
But these are the people who were part of your party. These aren't Conservatives who are saying that you're a threat to national security. These are members of your own party. Why do you think they're saying this?
Well, they have decided to resign from the party and form their own group. I think they owe it to the people that elected them in the first place that perhaps they should put their offer back to the people in those constituencies and have a by-election, decide whether they want to be the MP or not. They were elected on the same manifesto as me.
Well, actually, it's interesting, just on that point, back in 2011 you tweeted that in our electoral system you vote for an MP rather than a party or leader. So what's changed since then? You weren't calling for by-election.
Well, you do vote for an MP in your constituency, but that MP stands on a manifesto which we put forward.
But given that you said in 2010 that you vote for an MP, then there's no need to have a by-election, is there really?
You do vote for an MP, but that MP puts forward a proposal, a programme to their constituents, and the constituents vote accordingly.
Your MPs, many of whom are now saying there needs to be changes from the leadership. You know, Jess Phillips, for example, still for the moment at least in the Labour Party.
Well, look, you keep saying this. Hang on a minute. There's a lot of Labour MPs and there's 500,000 Labour Party members. Those party members keep the party going, raise the funds, knock on doors, deliver the leaflets. They're people whose voice must be heard as well. And you haven't quoted any party members.
But you know as well as that. MPs are important, aren't they? They're important.
Of course MPs are important, but they're not the only
and they're
show
saying
in
that,
town.
No, but they're saying that you're a threat to national security, so it's not surprising if people listen. Jess Phillips, still a Labour MP, says, at the moment, if you're not in his gang, it feels as if you have no role in the party. Do you think that looking back, maybe, is some of this your fault? Is any of this your fault, that you could have perhaps behaved better?
They made a rational decision to resign from the party and form an independent group. I spend a great deal of time talking to a lot of people in the party, many of whom offer me advice, some of it very detailed, some of it very critical, but they offer advice and I listen to it.
Do you have any regrets at all?
Regrets.
Regrets about
Listen,
your personal conduct in terms of your relationship with your
everything I can
MPs?
since I became leader of this party to expand the membership, to make sure we're a campaigning party, to get a community organising unit going so we're more active and present in the communities and get ourselves ready for an election.
Did you try and persuade them to stay?
I want them to stay.
Did you try and persuade them to stay?
Well, listen, none of them contacted me before they resigned. I first heard about it.
We all knew the names, didn't we? You
No.
could have given them a ring.
No, look.
To say, please, come on, Ian. We're old friends.
We spoke to a number of people, but...
Did you speak to any of the people?
Did I go through a list and call them all up? I didn't know who was going to resign because none of them had the courtesy
Have you made
to tell
any?
me.
Have you made any attempt to speak to any MPs who are still in the party?
Yes,
just to reach out and say,
listen, I
it'd be great
speak
if
to
you...
MPs all the time. I'm in Parliament every week. I do talk to people there. Of course I do.
So no
if
regrets. And,
being an MP is a great privilege and a great honour, but it's also a great responsibility to be true to the values that you put to the electorate before you were elected.
One thing you could do is say, you know what? I think this is a moment for the whole party to come together. I don't want anyone else to leave, so I'm going to shuffle the shadow cabinet.
No, I'm not going to appoint the shadow cabinet because you, on Sky News, tell me to.
No, it's not me. Jess Phillips, your MP, has said she thinks it would be a really good idea if you open up the shadow cabinet to other wings of the party. Is that something you'd be willing to consider?
The shadow cabinet has always been an open and balanced shadow cabinet. When I was elected in 2015, I appointed a shadow cabinet, some of whom resigned a few months later, and there are various opinions around the shadow cabinet table.
Do you think that they have ulterior motives, these people? Do you think that...
Well,
all right, let me put it another way. Do you think they ever accepted your leadership, really?
I think those are questions you need to put to them, not me.
What do you think, then?
Look, you put those questions to them, not me. My job is to lead the party. My job is to take this Tory government on, and that is what we're doing.
Earlier in the week, a source from your office briefed that the independent group is now, of course, Ian Austin's not a member, but the others, the independent group, they're now sitting with Tories, part of a Tory establishment coalition. Do you think that maybe some of these people were closer to the Tory party than you're part of the Labour Party?
They haven't yet put out any coherent policy statements. All I've heard is an economic message from Chris Leslie, with which I do not agree, because he seems to be completely at variance with our anti-austerity programme, and I can't accept that.
Do you think it might be best in the long run? Because maybe they don't really agree with you and the sort of party you now are. Maybe it's best if they do leave. People like this with these views. Do you think so? Maybe it would be
They
best?
have made the decision. I did not want anyone to leave. I do not want anyone to leave. I want our party to be strong, to be broad and inclusive. I've been in the Labour Party all my life. I joined when I was 16. I've been in it all that time, and it's always been a very broad church.
In which case, would you welcome them back?
Well, they've shown no signs of wanting to come back.
But if they did,
they resigned a week ago. I think
they said,
made
I've had a bit of a change of heart, Jeremy. I would really like to come back. Philip Hammond has said that the three Tories are very welcome to come back to the Tory party.
Nobody's approached me with any change of heart.
But if
whatsoever.
they did?
Listen, I'm not speculating on this.
I'll take that as a no, I think. In terms of more generally, you don't necessarily obviously agree with the comments that these MPs have made. Of course, Tom Watson, your own deputy, has said that he doesn't recognise the Labour Party anymore. He says the harshness, the brutality, the bullying. Is he right?
Listen, there is no place for harshness, bullying or anything else in the party. And to tell you the truth, I don't believe it exists on a wide scale. Where there is bad behaviour, we deal with it. Where there is a problem, we deal with it. That's why...
Why does Tom Watson say that it does?
You'd have to ask Tom Watson that, and I'll be speaking to Tom Watson in the very near future to talk to him about that. Okay?
So you're unhappy with what he's had to say?
No, look, he's made a comment. It's his comment, not mine.
You disagree with him?
Well, of course I disagree with him, because I do not wish to be in a party where there's any bullying or harassment.
So what's his motive for saying it then?
Ask him, not me. Because I want us to talk about the issues that people face in our society.
And we will come on to those, I assure you.
One of your questions so far,
and I assure you they will. I just want to clear a couple of things.
Whatsoever
I understand.
to anybody's life outside Westminster.
Well, but these MPs are important, aren't they? And they say that they've been abused by your supporters, so that sort of matters.
Of course MPs are important, but we are sent there for a reason.
Yes.
And if I may say so, you and your splendid colleagues in the media only ever talk about Westminster gossip. You never, ever talk about what's happening outside.
More than gossip when your own MP is the biggest split in the Labour Party since 1981. But let's leave that to one side. Just on what Tom Watson has said, he also said that Luciana Berger specifically was driven out by racist bullies. Do you agree she was driven out by racist bullies?
I spoke to Luciana very briefly last week to wish her well because she's expecting a baby. And the cases that have been of abuse that she suffered from, the anti-Semitic abuse she suffered from, are absolutely dreadful. Legal action has been taken by her and others, and we have taken action to discipline people that have committed any anti-Semitic acts in relation to her or indeed to anybody else. And I'm very sorry at the way Luciana has been targeted by anti-Semites.
Did you at any point, other than to wish her well with her baby, did you at any point over the last few weeks and months reach out to her to offer your personal support as a result of the anti-Semitism she's been experiencing?
We do offer support to all those that are suffering anti-Semitism.
Yes, but had you specifically reached out?
Can we just make it clear, we don't accept anti-Semitism in any form in our party.
I understand, but you
and
are...
Let's be very clear about that.
I understand, I totally understand that, but
clear.
you are, you often say yourself, and is well known, you are a anti-racism campaigner, you have been so for all of your political life. Given that one of your MPs was the victim of racism repeatedly on your own party, it would be of interest to know whether at any point you reached out to discuss that matter with her recently.
We've had discussions with her over the last few months, yes.
But you haven't recently?
I spoke to her briefly last week. That was the last time I spoke to her. That was and she's now resigned, and I absolutely regret her resignation.
But do you understand why? Do you understand why people might find it odd that with a case of anti-Semitism in the Labour Party, the chair of the Jewish Labour movement repeatedly talking about that publicly? Do you understand why people might think that you aren't necessarily as concerned as you ought to be? You haven't reached out to discuss it with her.
You haven't referred to the very many other people in the Jewish community that do say they are pleased with the actions the party has taken in its compliance unit, in the Chakrabarti inquiry and the report that came from it, and the disciplinary action suspensions that have been taken. You never mention any of that.
If an MP...
You don't mention any alternative view.
Okay, fine. If you want to talk about what other Jews say about you, we can. Louise Ellman, Jewish MP, says you don't care about the issue. Jewish Board of Deputies says you swim in a sewer of anti-Semitism. Ian Austin, whose father fled the Nazis, says the hard truth is the party is tougher on the people complaining about anti-Semitism than it is on the anti-Semites. Frank Field, formerly a Labour MP, says your party has become a force for anti-Semitism in British politics. The chief rabbi of the United Kingdom says that the remarks you have made in the past are the most offensive of any politician since the River of Blood and Enoch Powell. So, really, you can understand your Jewish MPs, the chief rabbi, are all saying one thing. You're saying another. Do you understand why the public might think, maybe I'm going to believe them and not you?
Speak to the very large number of rabbis that signed a letter in support of the actions we were taking. Look at the letter in The Guardian 2 days ago, supporting the actions we're taking. Look at the views of many people across the country that recognise racism is an absolute scourge in any form whatsoever, and including, of course, anti-Semitism.
Well, one of your allies, Len McCluskey, says that he thinks that the issue of anti-Semitism is being contrived. Do you know what he means?
Anti-Semitism does exist within our society. It has to be driven out, and it's on the rise in Europe. It's also worse in some cases in some countries in Europe, particularly the levels of Holocaust denial in Poland and other places. I do think we have to be realistic and serious about this.
John McDonnell has said today that he thinks the party needs to move quicker and faster. You agree with that?
We do it as quickly as we can, but there has to be fairness involved with it. There has to be justice involved with it as well. So you have to collect the evidence and then take a decision on the basis of the evidence. You can't just have a knee-jerk reaction to everything. Just very briefly,
on Brexit, your Shadow Chancellor John McDonnell has also said today that the party's moving more quickly towards a people's vote. Do you agree with that? Is that your party's position now?
I've been in Brussels yesterday and I'm in Madrid today. We had meetings with the European Commission yesterday, and those meetings were all about the danger of a no-deal exit from the European Union. And this afternoon I've just had a meeting with British residents in Spain who are also concerned about a no-deal exit. That would be a catastrophic position. So we put forward what I believe to be a credible plan, which is of a customs union, access to the single market and protection of the rights that we've obtained, work and so on from the European Union, and that at a later stage, when there's been a negotiation around that, that's a consideration to put to a public vote. So we've moved a long way on this, on the customs union and so on, and actually the reception we've had has been very positive. Not all agreed, but it's been positive. But the disaster of a no-deal exit would be serious.
But there's been this one idea put forward by one of your own MPs that potentially the Prime Minister, you could give the Prime Minister her votes for the deal on the basis that it would then be put to a referendum on that basis. Is that something that you'd be interested in?
No, because I can't see how one could support her deal. Her deal is very badly flawed and very damaging to the interests of our country and the people.
So no referendum on the Prime Minister's deal?
I think we need to put forward the alternative we have, which is what we'll be doing.
Would you put forward a Labour deal to the public?
That's exactly what I just talked about. The Labour offer is, of the three things I said, and we consider putting that to the public.
You'd consider putting the Labour deal to the public?
That's the point we're discussing now in the party.
Okay, and just
finally, that was what came out of our conference. Our conference decision was emphatically that no deal should be taken off the table. The problem is, it's the Prime Minister who's irresponsibly running down the clock. Irresponsibly running down the clock between her deal and no deal. Well, that is not the choice. The choice is a credible deal with the European Union or her deal, which is damaging to the interests of the people of this country.
And just finally, some of your MPs speculating about the future of the party. Just wanted to assure everyone, you're going to be around for the next election, aren't you, in 2022?
I'm very proud to lead the Labour Party. I'm very proud of the increase in membership we've got. I'm very proud to campaign on behalf of the party because it's the Labour strategy on jobs, economy, environment, housing, health, education that inspires hope and optimism in people. And that's what we'll be putting to the electorate whenever the election comes.
With you as leader?
Any other election
With
comes,
you as leader?
And I'm around to do it.
With you as leader?
Of course.